Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Elizabeth Snyder. She is a women's portraiture artist, confidence expert, and workshop leader passionately committed to helping women feel their best. She specializes in women's portraiture, branding, and headshots because it's her mission to help women feel their worth in any situation. She has decades of photography experience and has won many awards for her artistry. Welcome to the show, Elizabeth.
Thank you for having me, AJ.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will be very beneficial from this conversation, will benefit from this conversation right now. We'll be talking about how one can rediscover their worth through a good picture or photography. But before we come to this, Elizabeth, let us understand a bit about you, a bit about your journey, so that the audience knows who they are listening to.
Fabulous. Thank you. So I have been in the photograph industry since I was 8 years old. My aunt was a photographer, a headshot photographer, and from the beginning, she had me helping her build the studio, build the developing the darkroom setup, and be her assistant on different headshot sessions. So from there, it was absolutely. I knew immediately that's what I wanted to do. Watching the blank paper like magic in the dark room. It was like real magic to me. And I made it my mission to help women feel their best in front of the camera. It can be very nerve-wracking for a lot of people, but for women especially, we tend to be a little harsh on ourselves. And, a lot of times we're hiding from the camera. So making sure that we feel comfortable and confident and living our best life in front of the camera is exactly how I approach every single session I have.
Wonderful, wonderful, Elizabeth. Now, to understand when you talk about women finding their self worth with a portraiture, with photography, what about men? Do they find the same? Can they also find the same comfort, or is it special with women? Why I want to understand, why do men and women look at the same picture of themselves a bit differently?
Absolutely. No, men can absolutely feel the exact same as women. There are many things in there that men are also a little on the fence about, but typically they have a little more confidence than we do. But there is a lot of there's a lot of media telling women that they need to wear a certain brand of clothes or wear their hair and makeup a certain way or look a certain way, body weight, or how they're holding themselves. For men, a lot of times I don't even have to guide them into poses. They know exactly what to do because they're always kind of feeling confident in what they do. Now, of course, that's not every single person, but we do find that women struggle a little more with this than men do. So men, when they struggle with this, it usually only takes tiny little bit of effort to get them to feel their best and to feel like they're going to look absolutely fantastic on camera. For women, it takes a little more coaching. So before we even start the session, I always love to ask, why do you do what you do? A lot of women are in very masculine fields, especially in the States. So they're engineers or they're chemists or they're, surrounded by these just kind of masculine energies around them. And they don't always get to feel their femininity, and bringing that out in a headshot or in branding so that they still look like they're fitting the role that they're doing, but with a feminine appeal. And it takes a little bit of coaching, a little bit of coaxing in order to kind of get that out. And a lot of times it's like, oh, I don't know how I even got into this field. I just kind of like fell into it, which is kind of my favorite thing to talk about, because we all had a dream at one point. And how did that dream kind of shift into what are we doing professionally now? And does it line up? Are you struggling in your job? Yeah, are there things that you wish you could do differently or have a different experience with? And that makes all the difference in my photography sessions, because once we start to talk about that, you start to get like that chill, that, ooh, you get all those goosebumps all over you, because you're very excited to talk about whatever your passion is. And it makes a huge difference while I'm taking pictures between, oh, I hate having my picture taken and my boss tells me I have to do this, and okay, fine, I'm just bringing a jacket and that's it, going from that into, I love having my picture taken and can't wait to do it again. There's a big difference there. And for men, it's often, they're already in a masculine field because they are masculine. And a lot of times their wants and dreams are exactly aligned in what they're doing currently. So there's not that gap that I have to kind of fill for men typically.
Right, Elizabeth. Now, to understand it from the women's point of view, what are some of the things, when they want to take a very good picture of theirs, and if they are coming to a professional like you, what are some of the things that they can prepare when they go to you, or even before, even if they are asking a friend to, or someone else at home, to take their pictures in their own way. And before that, if you can tell us, for in a common person's understanding, what's a women's portraiture is all about. Is it only headshot, so that in a simple language one can understand?
Absolutely. So, women's portraiture, it can mean anything. I do anything in the studio, but typically it means more boudoir photos. So, it's a little more sexy than what you're going to get for a professional headshot or branding that you're looking for. It's just kind of a different way of putting it. But different ways to prepare for any shoot, any headshot or branding, or you know what, our phones have some very, very good software on them now. The cameras on our phones are more powerful than even the very expensive DSLR I had when I first became a brand. So they're very, very good. And as long as you know how light works, there's no reason you can't be using your iPhone or your smartphone to take a photo. I hate saying that, but it's very true. If you have a great south-facing window, a great big south-facing window, and you know the angle that you need to have your headshot in, and you don't overdo the editing, I mean, you could take a very good headshot with that. It's knowing how to make those micro adjustments, though, in posing and in lighting and all of that. Now, there are, of course, AI software out there now that looks beautiful, but it's still missing that like human component to it. So what I typically tell people before they come into me, make sure you know your angle. Like, what way that you have taken selfies with are you most comfortable with? That makes a huge difference for me, so that I know what you want to, how you want to look. The other ways that I tell women to prepare is find a picture of yourself that you loved your hair and makeup that day, so that my hairstylist and makeup artist can recreate it. Or find a picture online that's inspiration, again, so that they know where to start from. And then, of course, we custom tailor it to how you want to be. I also give guides on on how to dress, what you should be bringing in as far as wardrobe goes. We do wardrobe consults. I work with a stylist very closely so that she can get those missing pieces that maybe you don't have already in your wardrobe. I also have a whole beauty guide dedicated to when to get your nails done, when to get your eyebrows done, how, when you should have your facials done, all of these things kind of lining up until the day that we shoot. And I book out, I'm about 2 or 3 months right now on my calendar. So it does give you enough time to prepare and make sure that everything is just finished before we even start. So there's a lot that kind of goes into it, but it all makes the difference. And it just gives you those little pieces to get ready every single month and every single week before the session so that you feel prepared and not like scared before your photo shoot, because for a lot of us, we don't do this regularly. It's something you do once a year, maybe once every 3 years. So it's something that makes a huge difference for people coming in.
Right, Elizabeth. And as a profile picture expert, you see a lot of type people making. You talk about one big mistake that people generally happen to do. What is that, so that people are careful about?
The biggest mistake I am seeing is, just because it's a great picture of you, it doesn't mean it's appropriate for LinkedIn or for anything else professional that you are putting your photo on. So my husband works at a bank, for instance, and the bank is very buttoned up. It's very, very professional. And does require full dress, especially in his department. You do need a jacket. You need to be wearing nice shoes, all of those things. And what we are finding is that people who have their headshots on some of these calls that he's on, they are not professional. Sometimes it's a cartoon emoji. Sometimes it's a shot of them at the beach. Sometimes it's them at their wedding. And none of these are an office setting. Some of the trouble is that, especially for women, and I am all for women feeling comfortable in their skin, but there's a time and a place for it. So even if they're wearing like an off the shoulder or spaghetti strap dress at their friend's wedding, they have this beautiful photo taken of them. It doesn't make it appropriate for professional headshots because it kind of looks like you're naked from the neck up. So that's something to be wary of too, because the cutoff for a headshot is, it is a headshot. So you got to make sure that you look appropriate for your role.
Right. And that is where the next question is that what does one's profile picture say about anyone who has put it? Can people make a judgment just by seeing at the profile picture, or do they think that this person is the real them? What is your take on this?
Yeah. So it used to be a full 3 seconds before people make that judgment. And that time has gone down and down and down, especially now. Like that's over the last 20 years. Now it's like, I think it was like 0.3 seconds for them to make that snap judgment. And in the States, I'm not sure how it is in India, but in the States, we are not allowed to give resumes or applications with our headshots on them. They cannot judge you by your picture. However, if they get through that resume process and they're starting to do interviews, what is happening is that they will go and cyber stalk you. They will 100% find you on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn, and they will look at your picture and they will look at your content. So having something professional on your profile picture, especially on LinkedIn, is extremely important, especially if you're looking for a promotion or a brand new job, or if you own your own business, because people will absolutely make that snap judgment. The next thing they're going to look at is your content. So having a nice, clean social media like thread on there is extremely important as well. You don't want anything out there that that you wouldn't want to share with a boss.
Absolutely, absolutely, Elizabeth. Now, everyone tries to take a very good picture.
Mhm.
Everyone tries to get it as, as special as possible. Many a times it becomes too special, a little more, yeah, you can say embellished than the one is actually is. Nowadays a lot of people talk about authenticity being yours, being themselves. How do you calibrate authenticity with a very well shot headshot or a profile picture? How far is too much and how much is enough? I want to understand about the professional part of the profile pictures.
Yeah. So my big thing is that you need to look like yourself, but on a really, really good day. So knowing that, we need to show your age. We need to show your age. So, I'm starting to get up there in age and I attract what I am. So I'm getting a lot of women my age, a little older, in the studio. And we did not grow up with this constant camera in our faces like some of the younger millennials or the Gen Zers now. We're coming up on the most photographed generations of our time, which is fantastic. But for us, we tend to struggle with that a little bit. So making micro adjustments is the key. We want to make sure that while we're posing, we are giving the energy that we want for that next job, for the promotion, or for the job that you already have. So we are constantly adjusting emotion. So there's a lot through the eyes. There are, I want to say, like 50 or maybe more micro muscles in your eyes, and they tell a story. That is something that is so important that a lot of people miss. Your smile, the type of smile that you give, makes a huge difference. Teeth or not, some people are a little more self-conscious about their teeth. So that part of it doesn't really matter. We can whiten, we can straighten, we can do all of those things in post, but I would rather it look like you. So if you're comfortable smiling with no teeth showing, we can make sure that we are going around that in a way, which is totally possible. The other thing that we need to make sure of is that you know your angle. I know your angle, but I am not you. So whatever you are comfortable with, if you have a scar on one side or maybe a mole you don't like or something like that, we're going to angle you a little differently and make sure that you are comfortable showing the world that. The other half of that is in editing. And honestly, like taking pictures is like 10% of my job. The rest of it is editing. So we want to make sure, again, that it looks like you. Yes, we're aging, but that's okay. We don't want to make you look like plastic. We do not want to make you look 10 years younger than you do, because ultimately, especially if you're customer facing, you want to look like yourself so that they know who it is that's showing up at their office or meeting them for lunch or whatever. You want to be recognizable. It makes a huge difference. So we go very, very light with edits in my studio. We still do edits. Don't get me wrong. We still want to make sure that we are getting everything very, very seamless and professional looking, and still look like you. So there is kind of a fine tuning there. We also do very minimal, like some people go in and get like the full blown glamour shot with like the blur and everything like that. We try very hard not to do anything like that unless it's specifically requested. And that makes a huge difference too. I've heard horror stories from people like who give them a card and it's a picture from 1985, and then somebody else walks in the door and it isn't them, so we want to make sure that people know exactly who you are.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, after getting all these pictures done and all, one has to, what for whatever purpose they get these pictures shot and all the editing or less editing, more editing done. How can one still, be happy in their own skin. Is
Mm,
it that it can put a lot of pressure on one,
yeah.
especially women? How can one calibrate both the things? Be happy with who they are, what they are, and the way they are.
Absolutely. So that one's a little tough. That I'm not a therapist, right? But I am very, very, very good at bringing out people's passions, and making sure that we are having some pretty deep conversation before we even start shooting, which is where some of my consultations come into. So as you're leading up to your photo session, you want to be in contact with your photographer. You want to make sure that they are giving you the right advice up until studio day, and that you are giving them feedback with, what their concerns are, especially with these pictures coming in. Now there are all different reasons for women, especially, to feel maybe not completely worthy of having their headshot done, or yeah, I've had women come in almost angry that they have to do this for work and leave completely happy and can't wait to do it again. So that's my goal. And to get there, we have to start talking about what they're doing and why they're doing it. So if your dream when you were a little kid was to be a rock star, how did you get from that into foreclosing on people's homes at a bank? There's a big disconnect there. So the chances of you being, okay, I want to be a rock star when I grow up. So you're probably still singing to songs in the car and you're belting out tunes. But then when you go to work, you're just drained and miserable and you hate your job. So why are you doing it? And that's where we kind of got to get. What is it? What kind of joy, even if most of your job is terrible? Because of course we have to work, right? Like we don't all have, the trust fund baby stuff going on. Like we usually generally have to work here. So what is it about your job that you can be happy about? What brings in your passions, and how can you put that into the work that you're doing now? And maybe you get a promotion doing something that you love a little more, even if it is the same job. And including that little bit of happiness in your life, even if it's something that you're doing extracurricularly, like an open mic, or something, you're writing poetry or something artsy. And how do you get that into your life all the time, every single day? And that's what makes the difference. And then, if somebody's miserable about their job and they have to come in for a headshot and they're miserable at the studio, they're not going to love their headshot. So getting them to a place of, it's not all bad. It's not all bad. Is something that is very, very important to me, because otherwise we don't get those real smiles. We don't get the real emotion coming out through their photos. And when I hold the camera up, they're not looking at me. They see the lens of the camera, they see themselves. And that is something huge. That is like, I am looking directly at their soul and I can bring out what they need. And I'm very good at it and I love it. It makes me very happy. So I know I am fulfilling my purpose by fulfilling their purposes.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, a lot of people want to change their profile much often. Some people do, some people still thinking what to do, what not to do. So, what is your advice? How often should they change their profile image?
That one. I love this question. Um, it depends on what you do. So if you are a plumber and you are going into people's homes every single day and you need to look like who they know is showing up so that they're staying safe, especially for women living alone, which I was for a very, very long time. It's extremely important to know exactly who's coming to your home. And if you are a male in a masculine profession that goes door to door, like a plumber or like a mechanic, or whatever it is that you're having people at your home, you need to make sure it's them showing up. So I would say for men, every year, especially if it is a customer facing job. If it's not a customer facing job, I would say probably every 3 years. Same with women. I would say every year, unless you're changing your hair or your makeup, then it's probably more than a year. So if they have very, very long hair, or they have very curly hair and now they're wearing it straight, changing your profile picture with every time you go to the salon or to make a huge change is definitely something that you need to do. Again, it's so that people know exactly who's coming to their door, and it's a trust factor. They want to make sure that you are who you say you are, and that makes a huge difference. It feels like a lie when somebody gives you a picture that's 10 years old and you're obviously not that same person. So I would say every year. I would say every year, unless it's, extenuating circumstances. But I truly feel that it is something to do more often than you probably do it now.
Right, Elizabeth. One more thing I want to understand. Uh, Husbands and partners, they always fail in taking pictures of their partners. They are not very happy, or sometimes they are happy in a good mood. What tips can you share to such husbands and partners who are trying to take the perfect picture for their wives or their partners?
Oh, absolutely. So that's a little tough because your partner is not a photographer. I would say have those conversations with your partner. Make sure that you are discussing what you like about yourself, what you don't like about yourself, because that's going to make a difference in how they're holding the camera or the phone. If you want an outdoor picture, let's say that, and you may not know what golden hour is. So golden hour is anywhere from like an hour to sunset to 2 hours from sunset, or vice versa with sunrise. And you want to make sure that your subject is facing away from the sun. So you want some hair light behind them. You want to get that nice rim light, that glow behind them. Don't face them into the sun. Anytime you do that, you're going to get those dark shadows under your eyes. They're going to be squinting. They are not going to be happy with their picture at all. And yeah, so I would say face them away from the sun. Make sure that you are doing it at the right time of day, because high noon is never the right time of day. And you want to make sure that you're talking to each other. Make sure that you know exactly what they're self-conscious about on either side, and that they understand it. Not just say, oh no, you're being crazy, I love you anyway. Because, the 5 pounds that women are worried about, your husbands don't see it. They don't know that you gained 5 pounds. They don't care. They just love you. And that's what matters. So understanding it, just say, look, I understand that you feel this way. I don't see it, but okay, we're going to work around that. And that makes a huge difference. Just making sure that you're all on the same page. And even though you're telling your partner, oh my gosh, you are beautiful every single day, which goes a long way. But, it makes people a little more comfortable to say, I understand where you're coming from. I don't see it, but I love you. And I'm going to take a picture with love. And that makes a huge difference.
Right, Elizabeth. And my last question is that you know about photography so much. How do you work it? Do you take your own pictures, profession, or someone else does it? And how are you happy about the outcome? Because are you hand holding, or backseat driving too much, or you leave it on them, or fully on them?
I'm terrible. I'm a terrible person to take a picture of. So I usually have my husband do it, to be honest. I set up all the light. I know exactly where I need to be and how I need to stand. It's either my husband or my partner, my best girlfriend, that we do a lot of stuff together. But she's not a photographer. I do a lot of backstage driving, backseat driving rather. I'm a terrible person to be in front of a camera. I know exactly what I need to do, and I'm constantly checking their work, and I'm constantly like, okay, now I got to do it this way. And we're in there for like 2 hours trying to get one shot. So no, I'm the worst. I can take a picture. I am terrible at letting other people take pictures of me.
There is much to learn about photography from you, Elizabeth, and I'm sure a lot of people would like to learn more about your photography, about and learn everything, and also maybe get their pictures done and portraiture done from you. So, what is the best way for them to connect with you?
Yeah, honestly, the best way is through my website, which is elizabethsnyderphotography.com. And the best way to see all of my most current work is either my blog or Instagram, which is, again, Elizabeth Snyder Photography, Facebook, Elizabeth Snyder Photography. And I'm on everything except TikTok and Twitter. So you can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on yeah, Instagram, Facebook are probably honestly the most common ways people are messaging me. So yeah, I'm everywhere. If it isn't Elizabeth Snyder Photography, it's ESP LLC.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you for having me. This has been a pleasure.